Hi all, this is Simona Rich and this is section 11 of the Most Holy TRINOSOPHIA. No sooner had I quitted the steps of the palace when I saw fluttering in front of me a bird similar to Ampirce. I remember how to pronounce this one. This one, however, having two wings like a butterfly's besides its own. A voice issuing from a cloud commanded me to seize it and to affix it, and I darted forth after it. It did not fly, but used its wings in order to run with the greatest rapidity. I pursued it. It fled before me and made me cover the entire plain several times. I followed it without pause. Finally, after pursuing it for 9 days, I forced it to enter the tower, which I had seen in the distance as I was leaving, and I think it should be something like Tsahan. The walls of this edifice were of iron. 36 columns of the same metal supported it. The interior was of the same material, encrusted with shining steel. The foundations of the tower were so constructed as to be twice as deep in the earth as they were high above ground. The bird had barely entered this enclosure when an icy cold seemed to overcome it. In vain it tried to move its numbed wings. It still fluttered, trying to flee, but so feebly that I reached it with greatest ease. I seized the bird, and driving a steel nail through its wings, I affixed it to the floor of the tower with the aid of a hammer called. Hardly had I finished when the bird acquired new strength. It did not move, however, but its eyes began to shine like topaz. I was gazing at it when my attention was attracted by a group in the center of the hall. It showed me a handsome man in the prime of life. In his hand he held a staff about which two serpents were interlaced. The young man was striving to escape a larger and more powerful man who wore a girdle and a helmet of iron surmounted by waving red plumes. Near him a sword lay on a buckler covered with hieroglyphs. The armed man held in his hand a heavy chain with which he shackled the feet and body of the youth, who tried in vain to flee from his terrible adversary. 2 red tablets bore certain characters. I departed from the tower, and opening a door between 2 pillars, I found myself in a vast hall. This is the end of section 11, and now its explanation. Firstly, the explanation of the image. As the 10th illustration represents the final liberation of the divine man from his physical limitations, so the 11th depicts the attempt of the intellect to break away from bondage to the animal soul. The powerful man with his girdle and helmet of iron and his crest of red plumes is the Demiurgus, or regent of the physical world, the governor of the senses and appetites. He is attempting to bind the spiritualized intellect to the rock of ignorance. The handsome youth bearing the caduceus is the philosophized intellect. The mastery of thought, which makes the mind a servant of the spiritual self, is the 11th step of the old rite. The whole phenomenal universe against which the neophyte has struggled through his 11 strange and arduous adventures is personified in the red-plumed man. Here the world is making its last effort to hold the escaping Superman. The effort is vain. No chains forced on earth can restrain or bind the philosophical Mercury. We are told that in the alchemical processes this subtle essence can seep through an iron vessel, the warrior, or through glass or porcelain, and vanish in spite of every effort to capture its quintessence. The 11th figure contains numerous extraordinary and impressive hieroglyphs. The characters on the shield include a crossed scythe and scepter, signifying death and resurrection, or mortality and sovereignty. There is also the axe blade, the hieroglyph of the hewer, the builder, or the geometrician. The smaller hieroglyphs mean egg and cave, and the lunar crescent may symbolize either a lunar quarter or a gateway. These symbols unquestionably refer to steps in the initiatory drama. The words in the panel at the top of the figure may be translated to be the sign of the leg with everlastingness, to pour out, and to be the herald of destruction. The thought is evidently prophetic, referring to the destruction of the unrighteous in the sign of Aquarius, the constellation which rules the 11th section of the work. The writing below the figures is purely mystical. It is given that the evil shall be trodden out in the 6th portico. The soul, in its spiritual cycle of regeneration, crosses from the lower to the upper hemisphere of the zodiac at the end of the 6th sign, Virgo, or the Virgin. This Virgin is the mother of the Messiahs. A physical generation begins in Aries, so the generation of the wise begins with the mother, the mysteries, from whom they are born into the celestial hemisphere. The old order cannot proceed beyond the 6th gate, for the 7th is that of the new man, or the second birth, a mystery hinted at in our inscription. And now the analysis of the text. The initiate, departing from the palace of the resurrection, sees fluttering before him the mysterious bird Amphitrya, which now, however, has the wings of the butterfly added to its own. The Kabbalistic meaning of the bird's name is, "A mother shall bear the likeness." The intellectual energy of the Hermetic ibis is now perfected by soul power, represented by the diaphanous wings of the butterfly. Apuleius created the Psyche myth as a method of setting forth the Hermetic marriage, or the union of the reason with the perfected soul. This is the second greater mystery, the accomplishment of the philosophic androgyne, in which the male and female principles of wisdom, represented by the ibis and the butterfly, are united in one creature. The initiate is told to seize and affix the symbolic bird. For 9 days, degrees, the adept pursues the bird, which he finally forces to enter the tower named corruption. The symbolism then continues, clothed in alchemical terms. The tower is the vessel for further digestion, through which the elements of the stone must pass before their final perfection. The initiate drives a steel nail through the wings of the bird. The name of the nail is an admonishment to make haste and complete the operation. The bird is therefore crucified to the wheel, as was the dove of Semiramis or Ixion. The name of the hammer means to come forth and be manifest, an allusion to the strength of will with which this final operation must be accomplished. Alchemically, the substance represented by the bird begins to gleam in the retort. The luminous quality intimates that the soul power of the stone is beginning to shine triumphantly, and that the arduous operations of the alchemist are about to be rewarded. The initiate departs, having completed the 11th mystery and fixed the power of the soul bird so that it can no more depart from him. He passes out between 2 great pillars and finds himself once more in the Hall of Wisdom. This is the end of 11th section, and next video will be the last one in this series. Thank you for watching. Take care.